Hi everyone, in this video we are reading, what is the worst first date you have ever been on or seen? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. She asked me if I had a sled and suggested I come sledding with her and her friends on the weekend. I was like, yeah, I have a sled, sounds good. Show up with my toboggan at her friend's house, and she meant snowmobile. They were going snowmobiling and I brought a toboggan. For anyone who doesn't know, sled is like slang for snowmobile. We didn't see each other again after that. Matched with someone on Tinder. We chatted a couple days on and off. We eventually decided to meet at the bar. She spent a lot of time on her phone. Seemed extremely eager, anxious, looking at the front door of the bar. People kept walking by us and saying hi to her, so this was obviously her watering hole. We got one drink in before whoever she was messaging, eagerly awaiting, arrived. She excuses herself for just a second. 10 minutes later she still isn't back. The bartender comes down to my end, asks if we're on a date. I told him yeah. He goes, that was her coke dealer. Your beer is on me if you want a dip. She ain't coming back, and if she is, you don't want to be around her. I asked a college girl out for dinner and to see a play, and she invited her mother along. It was so awkward. I was walking past a rickshaw one night with a dude and a lady in it, and the lady says, I always feel bad for these guys. I feel like I'm too heavy. And, instead of reassuring her, the guy says, oh, don't even worry about it. These guys could carry a moose. I think he knew as soon as it left his mouth that he wasn't getting anywhere on that date. I was in Maui for vacation and walked over to eat at a restaurant near my hotel. I sat next to this couple who were just sitting down as well, and they had some light small talk and ordered drinks and food and stuff. He pulls out his phone and records a Snapchat video of her and saying, this is my friend from Utah, and it all seemed like they were hitting it off. Then it got weird. He appeared to lose his ability to strike up any conversation. He kept rewatching the video he just took, with his voice shouting the same line over and over and ignoring her at the table with him. She kept trying to talk to him and keep things going, but he just wasn't responsive or talking and just kept watching his own video with her in it. For like 45 minutes this goes on, and then they get up and leave. I happen to leave within 5 minutes of them, and I walk out of the place and I see him hyper-aggressively making out with her, to the point where I thought his tongue was going to hit her stomach. It was so weird. She was really superficial and vapid. Gave a list of what a real man has to have in order to be with her. List was like have a Mercedes or BMW, wear a Rolex, have a suit, own their own home, have a condo in the city for weekend fun, own a boat, has to have an inheritance, can't be more than 2 years older than her. I was pissing myself laughing in her face, because she was an 18-year-old freshman in college and believed this was a prerequisite to date her. She's here eating ramen noodles yet wants daddy long dong to have all this. Like, ma, what are you bringing to the table? We graduated recently and she didn't date anyone during undergrad, because no one was ever enough for her. Those prereqs were weird, because she hadn't grown up in opulence. She grew up in a low-income county of our state. I have a female relative who started dating a guy. He's driving her home and is talking on his phone. He's having a terrible fight with his ex. Apparently at some point he loses his mind and tries to kill himself by ramming the car, with my relative still in it mind you, into a telephone pole. He missed and put the car into a ditch. They both lived. She married him 4 months later. Big surprise. He was an abusive psychopath. It lasted less than a year. My favorite one was, I picked up this girl and she gets in the car and before even saying hello or anything, she asks me, do you recycle? And I'm so blown back by this question. And pause for a second. Of course, who the frick doesn't recycle? And she just says, we're not gonna get along. Should have kicked her out of the car, lol. Blind date. The girl was really hot, but she has anger issues. She was currently on probation for assault. Her ex-boyfriend is in prison. She leaves 2.5 hours from me. Good date. Having fun. Good conversation. Enjoying the nice spring weather on the porch of a Mexican restaurant. We have just asked for the check and then a woman shows up and threw her keys at his face. He pretended it didn't happen. It comes out, pretty quickly, that this was his girlfriend. They get into a right proper fight in the parking lot and the cops show up. I can't leave, because my card is inside with the server and it's taking 1,000 years. I met a girl on an airplane, got her number. She was doing school. I was interning. We met a few weeks afterwards for dinner. We meet at the restaurant, try to go for a hug. She's anxious and I can see it on her face, and kinda returned the hug. Weird. Well, Not long after we sit down, she tells me she was sexually assaulted by a member of her dance team, reported him. He was kicked out of school, and threatening her life via text. It came out that he assaulted other women, too, so she spoke first. Dart. Well, she's freaked all dinner and has her eyes staring at the door, scared he is going to enter any second. Conversation was pretty difficult to get going, especially cause she was warning me he might actually show up. Why did she tell him? I don't know. When she's ready to go, I escorted her in an Uber to her dorm. We waited for some of the other guys from the dance team to watch out for her the rest of the night. To be fair, her first date was probably way worse than mine. Oh, I got one. Met a girl on Tinder, chatted for a couple weeks. She comes over to my house to hang out and watch a movie. We smoke a little bit and decide to find a horror movie neither of us had seen. We chose Maniac with Elijah Wood in it. So we get all settled in, turn it on, and the first scene of the movie is Elijah meeting a girl online, her going to his place, and him murdering her. There was not a second date. Back when I was single, my friend's wife hooked me up with a woman she worked with, said she was cute. She wasn't. She spent the whole date talking about how she hadn't had sex for 17 years and she had only had sex with her college boyfriend. There was zero interest on my part, so I chose not to pick up on the hints. It was our only date. Went to pick her up, pull up to the house and walked to the door, rang the doorbell, nothing. Rang the doorbell again, nothing. Texted her saying I was there. I don't see you. Turns out her parents were divorced, and she was staying at another parent's house that night. She didn't mention anything about that before, so I drive 45 minutes to her other parent's house. Did she apologize? Nope. Took her bowling. Apparently, you're supposed to go a little easy, or whatever, to make it more enjoyable for both people. I didn't know that. After bowling, we just kind of drove around. Asked if she was hungry. Nope. Wife and I were out on our usual Friday night dinner date when a couple a few years younger than us were sat at table over. We watched as the night progressed, the girl get less and less interested as the guy wouldn't stop talking about himself. We both felt sorry for the poor girl. Had to have been a first date and most likely his last with her. We went to an art house movie she selected, because she thought it would be neat. The movie was full on alcoholism, gang rape, deaths. We just were shell-shocked coming out of the movie, so we just kind of stared at each other and walked in different directions. Had to rescue a girl on a shit show of a date when I was with my previous girlfriend. We went to a local dive bar regularly, because they had this amazing deep-fried mac and cheese ball things, and a good selection of craft beers she was into. It's one of those bars where each day has its own set of regulars, and eventually you get to know your crowd. But when you don't, everyone else kinda watches you a bit to see if they'll accept you into the group. Anyway, so these two walk in, and sit down at the table next to ours. First thing we notice is that this dude talks obnoxiously loud, and the girl kinda smiles in a sorry about this way every now and then. She is totally a girly girl, and this dude is going on and on about his Jeep, guns, and fishing. So at this point me and my girlfriend are more interested in their date than our own conversation, so we're listening in. Every time she tries to switch the conversation to something else, he brings it back to some macho man activity he is the bestest ever at, and he's straight up lying to. Like, bro, there is no way you shot multiple moose last weekend at 500 feet. Even if you did, it's not in season, so you're bragging about poaching. He then works his way over to sports since a football game is on TV. And to her credit, she actually tries to learn about it. But he just keeps making fun of her for asking about the flags or whatever, but in a mean way. One quote that stuck with me is, "Man, you girls just aren't able to understand, because you don't compete in at a high enough level." Like what, lol? Have you ever watched a ballet, gymnasts, women's hockey, UFC, etc.? But whatever, maybe he just needs to find a country girl who grew up with 4 brothers. Nope, she picks up her phone for like 5 seconds, and the dude berates her for not being interested in him and ignoring him. At this point she's like near crying, and my girlfriend gets up to ask her to go to the bathroom for some lady help. I go to the bartender, tell him the too long didn't read, ask for a tab so I can pay next time we come in, and phone my girlfriend. She says the girl is in tears and just wants to leave. But she leaves on the opposite end of the city and has no ride. No freaking problem. I tell her I'll grab the girl's jacket and purse from the table. Then when you hear 2 knocks on the bathroom door, come out and me and the bartender will escort her out. So yeah, I grabbed her shit, Didn't acknowledge him when he yelled at me asking what I was doing. And we got her out of there while dude flipped his shit. Drove her home. And now my ex is still friends with her. We went back next week. Found out the dude ran out on his bill. So they flagged his ID and yeah. Last I heard the girl was in a good relationship with a good guy. My date invited me over to his place and started singing and playing his acoustic guitar. It may sound romantic, but he was awful at playing guitar and singing, and he didn't stop for 30 minutes. For some strange reason I decided to stay. Should have left, but wanted to give him a chance. And we started fooling around. He was having a hard time finishing, so he stopped like 3 times and said he has issues with finishing, because he believes he faps too much. Super awkward. Needless to say, I never talked to him again. Tinder match. She seemed fairly attractive and we hit it off in some conversation. Over a few days I wanted to meet her as she seemed great and down to earth. Suggest we meet at a park, go for a walk and then something to eat afterwards. She gets excited, says she knows just the place. A very old famous bridge just north of the Metroplex, Dallas. I was clueless, but obliged since the Google pics looked like cool history. Midday, show up at the park, waiting around when someone plus 50 lbs heavier comes up to me asking me if I'm Mexicans. Turns out I got catfished and good. Not to be rude, I go for the walk, because the bridge at least looked interesting. We're walking up to it and she smells like she hasn't showered in a week. She's talking about something, but that Texas spring heat is amplifying that smell. Get to the bridge. I'm interested in it. Built in the 1800s or so. Then she mentions its history. I'm game. Says it's an old goat pass and there was a goat herder that took it every day until some clan members hung him off of it. But his body disappeared in the bridge. Area is haunted. Okay, cool story I guess. But she's more excited than ever now that she's scratched the surface and man, I didn't realize the void I was standing on. She starts talking about how ghost hunters aired here one time. It was her favorite show she told me. She finds the location someone on the show got force pushed by a ghost and then reenacted it. I kid you not. I've had it. My patience and kindness is paid in full and I'm gonna get out of there. I mention I've got something to go to excuse and she gets bummed until she's had an idea. Give me a second, she says. She tries to jog down the trail like 30 feet. Looks off the path. Finds a branch. Starts drawing in the pathway murmuring something. Throws something out of her purse and looks around the trail like she's waiting for something. I'm officially freaked the frick out. She comes back disappointed. I ask what that was about and she says I tried to summon the demon that haunts the bridge. Interesting. And why the frick would you do that? I'm heading back for the parking lot with or without her at this point. IDGAF. She's trying to keep up, mentioning something about a cursed ceramic doll that got nailed to a post without shattering or some BS. Get to the car. She's like wanna come over. Somehow no just didn't seem powerful enough. I peeled out of there and said a prayer. There's more to it, but just doesn't come across well via text. Co-workers thought I made it up. But I swear to God Almighty she put fear in me. One of those times I'm glad I did it for the story but never again LOL. My mum and I were eating one day and the people next to us were on a first date. I didn't hear most of it, but we did hear him say it's like a retard with a heart of gold who doesn't know how to use it, followed by him asking her when he can see her again. Unfortunately for him she was moving to Argentina next week apparently. Somebody on here once told the story of how a guy picked her up for their first date and took her to Monster Jam. Now I get it that she didn't like it, but if a woman picked me up and took us to do something really out there like that, I'd be into it. Long time ago my friend sets me up on a date with a girl I'd never met in person. We meet at the theater and she doesn't look anything like her MySpace photos. We go into the theater and she introduces me to her mum, dad, and 9-year-old brother. They're watching the movie with us. They choose the movie Romeo and Juliet, and at this point I'm not sure why I stuck it out. We get into the theater and the 9-year-old is kicking the back of my seat immediately, and doesn't stop for the entire 20 minutes. I said frick it, excused myself to use the restroom and just drove home. Oh, I got this one. Matched on Tinder. We seemed to hit it off really well at first and she was cute. She asked if I wanted to go meet up at a brewery at a certain time. I agreed. Earlier the day of the date I sent her a quick message saying I'm looking forward to it and confirmed the time to meet. She says she is looking forward to it as well, but maybe a little late. I offered to meet up 30 minutes later and she said it would only be a few minutes so we could still aim for the original time. Time comes around and I get there a few minutes early to stake out a table. Busy night. I text her saying I'm early and where I am, but not to rush. She responds with thanks. I am just getting ready to leave my house right when we were supposed to meet, mind you. I'm a little pissed then I remembered that she lives in a town the next county over. I ask her if I can get an edited to add and she said Google is telling me about 45 minutes. Now I'm faced with the dilemma of do I sit here by myself like a goon by myself for 45 plus minutes, parking was bad, and wait for her, or do I so frick it and leave? Against my better judgment, I decided to stay and bought myself a beer or two, surfed Reddit, and made small talk with the other people there. 50 minutes later, she finally shows up and, well, she is still cute. She didn't look much like her photos. Whatever, let's give her a shot. She's talking mostly about herself and not asking much about me, which is annoying, but not in itself a total deal breaker. After chatting for a bit we went to get another beer. On the way back to our spot from the bar I somehow managed to trip and spill an entire beer all over my favorite shirt. She gives out a very half-hearted oh no before I excuse myself. I go excuse myself to go wash off a little and get another beer. I told the bartender my story and thankfully he calmed me a beer best part of the night. When I am walking back she is on her phone and looking concerned. Once the call is over I ask her what's up and she says my mother just called and said my great aunt had to go to the emergency room and looks like she may die soon. I need to go. To this day, I'm still mad at myself for not calling her out on such a by-the-books bullshit cop-out. But in the heat of the moment I was so stunned I couldn't think of anything and just said bye. I got back home and realized that I waited 45 minutes at the bar by myself for a date that lasted 20 minutes. The following day she unmatched me on Tinder. Honestly, things could have been much worse, but they could have been much better, from the bottom of my heart. Frick you Brittany. Matched with a girl on an app. Tinder I think, and drove a bit for coffee. I get there and she's super nervous and glancing around everywhere. Fairly made up and dressed a bit more flirty, and just on edge the entire time. After about 10 minutes I just straight out said if she was uncomfortable she could leave, no harm no foul, and she thanked me and made a run for it. I think she had other expectations and I'm more the type that was after a relationship, but some people just don't mix well and that's okay. Just laughed it off a bit, had a fun back and forth with the barista, ordered another drink, and read the rest of a book I was on. I guess the advice out of here is don't try and force something that isn't working. Not everything is going to work out and that's completely okay. Please subscribe if you like the video. It really helps the channel to grow. Adios.